This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Good morning. Coming up this hour, the latest on bail reform efforts at the Texas legislature. We chat with a former Houstonian who survived the Boston Marathon bombing 12 years ago today. Plus, we meet a pioneering pilot with the Navy's Blue Angels who was just inducted into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame. But first, a reminder that conversations like the ones you hear on Houston Matters are local, thoughtful, and powered by you. Every time you give, you make it possible for us to stay curious, to go deeper, to reflect this community. Keep this service strong with a donation now at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887. And here with us all hour long to encourage your support, Houston Matters senior producer Michael Haggerty.
Good morning, everyone. If we all work together to protect what Houston Public Media has become, we'll all have a greater chance of managing times of financial uncertainty and other problems we face. Because of those potential cuts to funding for public media you may have heard about, your gift right now is even more vital. So please give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Public media is powered by people, not advertisers, not shareholders. And right here in Houston, Houston Matters reflects the spirit of our community through stories that connect us. Your support fuels it all. Please make that gift today. Again, of $10 or $20 or $30 a month, more if you can afford it, at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887.
There's a reason, chances are, that you tune in to this show all the time. You tune in for thoughtful conversations, local artists, and to learn more about the events that are shaping our community. When you give today, you're also giving Houston something back. More of that content, more of those stories, but also more shade, cleaner air, and a greener future because it's Trees Day. Choose trees as your thank you gift at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887, and trees will be planted in your name here in our community. One gift, twice the impact.
Every weekday morning at 9, we are exploring what makes Greater Houston tick. You deserve access to the information that you rely on from this station. You have a right to stay informed, and your support makes that possible. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Let's just take a moment here to just kind of reflect on what the show does best. It informs, it inspires, it connects, all in a time when misinformation spreads fast. Shows like Houston Matters offer clarity, context, a lot of depth. We have longer conversations about subjects that are happening in Houston. And right now, also, your gift goes even further. It helps plant trees in our community. What else do you need to know to get you over the line and get you to donate? Do it right now, houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887.
And we'll check in with Michael again in a bit. But now let's move on to our first topic of the day, bail reform. Some lawmakers in Austin are pushing for major changes in how cash bail is set. Senate Bill 9 was crafted amid allegations based on data tracked by Texas Crime Stoppers that indicated a number of homicides have been committed in Harris County by individuals released on low or no bonds. Nina Satija is an investigative reporter with the Houston Chronicle. Nina, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Republican State Senator Joan Huffman of Houston crafted Senate Bill 9, which has passed through the Senate but awaits consideration in the Texas House. What does her bill call for exactly?
Senator Huffman has a few bills. The one that I wrote about recently would really just change the way that bail initially gets set in Texas and especially in Harris County. So in Harris County right now, the vast majority of people that get arrested will go to the Joint Processing Center. That's a 24-hour facility in Houston, and they'll get processed there, and they'll see a magistrate judge. That's usually an appointed official, not an elected judge. And that appointed official will decide whether there's probable cause to detain them, probable cause to charge them, and what their bail should be. And so Senator Huffman thinks that that decision should be left to elected judges.
Are these allegations true that people out on low or no cash bail here in Harris County have committed a number of homicides while awaiting trial?
That is certainly something that has occurred. People have been arrested and charged with much lower level crimes where the bail even asked for by the prosecutors would be quite low potentially, or, low as in $5,000, $10,000. And so, yes, absolutely, people have gone on to allegedly commit other crimes while out on bail. The problem is Bail is not meant under the Constitution to be a punishment. It's really meant to be a way to guarantee that people come back to court. And it's not a predictor of whether you may commit another offense. So it's really, really hard to legislate your way out of this issue. The other challenge is some people have gone on to commit heinous offenses after paying extremely high bails, $500,000, $1 million. And so there's a point where no matter how high the bail you set is, it's hard to know whether that's really going to prevent future crime because it's really about your ability to pay. It's not about your risk to public safety.
Who is opposed to this bill and how come?
So this particular bill, one of the challenges with it is that it would change a lot of the process for just how arrests go through the system, how cases go through the system in Harris County. And Harris County's courts have been overwhelmed for a very long time. So the concern from judges and experts, defense attorneys, and some former prosecutors that I spoke to is that right now the reason appointed magistrates set bail rather than elected judges is because elected judges are overwhelmed and have been for decades. And actually, many counties use that system. So if you shift a lot of bail setting responsibilities onto the elected judges, you really just completely change the process. The defendants would actually probably have to go to a different location. The judges don't work 24/7, whereas magistrates have 24/7 shifts. So you've got a timing logistical issue. So, I think that a lot of the bail reform that's being discussed at the legislature right now is something that lots of people are open to. Their concern is about resources. Do we have the resources to keep more people in jail, which is what some of this legislation would do? And does Harris County have the resources to actually implement it?
Who makes up this panel of magistrates setting bail in Harris County currently?
Right now, the way that magistrates are chosen in Harris County, as in many other counties, is there's a consortium of elected judges, felony judges, misdemeanor judges in Harris County, and justices of the peace. I think it's a group of 9 of them, select the magistrate judges to do these probable cause and bail setting hearings. And that's how it's been for decades.
Is this setup unique to Harris County?
It is not. It also exists in Tarrant County and Bexar County. Travis County is going to be moving to this system as well. So several other urban counties have set this up. And state law allows them to do that. Again, because in all of those counties, the number of judges really stayed the same even as the population exploded in the last few decades. And so the judges have just needed to basically offload these responsibilities onto appointed officials.
Have there been similar concerns in Bexar and Tarrant counties over how this is going?
Yes, I spoke to someone who actually, Jim Bethke, used to work in Harris County as the head of Justice Administration. He's now in Bexar. And he echoed the same concerns of people that I spoke to in Harris County about the impact of this bill. Just again, the logistics of having bail set by elected judges in more instances compared to magistrates would really create a logistical bottleneck. So there is just a real, again, logistical question of how this would be implemented.
SB 9 does allow for municipal judges or justices of the peace to set bail. Would that solve these administrative hurdles?
Well, that's a really interesting point. So right now, yes, the state allows municipal judges and justices of the peace to set bail across the state. And in many places across the state, they do that. And this bill actually would not affect that. So yes, it's kind of an exception away. Some people have called it a loophole that if counties wanted to get around this requirement and if elected judges couldn't take on that load, they could just pass it off to municipal judges who in Houston, for instance, are not elected. Those are also appointed by the city council. Or they could offload it to justices of the peace who don't necessarily have to be lawyers under state law. So it is an exception that some folks have raised concerns about because really the goal of Senator Huffman, as she has stated in committee hearings, is to have elected judges make more of these bail decisions. So if that's not actually what the law would do, based on how it's written, I think that's a problem for the lawmakers that want to push it through right now.
Has Senator Huffman addressed any of these concerns?
They did not come up in a Senate committee hearing in February. I reached out to her office. I did not hear back, but it was expressed as a concern at the House committee hearing by some members of the legislature. They say they're working on it. I've yet to hear back from any lawmakers about whether they're redrafting the legislation or what the plan is.
This was, you mentioned a House committee hearing. This is the Criminal Jurisprudence Committee, I believe.
That's right.
Is that where the bill stands right now? It's awaiting a vote out of that committee?
Yes, it would need to pass that committee, and at the moment it still remains pending in that committee. They had a hearing and they didn't take action. The Senate has made a couple of changes, but not addressing the issues that we discussed, and that bill now remains pending in the House.
Nina Satija is an investigative reporter with the Houston Chronicle. Nina, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just ahead, a former Houstonian story of surviving the Boston Marathon bombing 12 years ago today. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. From bail reform to immigration and speech on campus to poll results and developments in city government, just in the last few days, we have demonstrated on this show how the first minutes of each day's Houston Matters are devoted to the issues and ideas of immediate and pressing concern to Houstonians. We follow that the rest of each hour with more smart conversations with real people about real life here in the greater Houston area. When you give today, you are making space for more stories like that. Support Houston Matters right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. And back with us to encourage your support is Houston Matters producer Michael Haggerty.
Yeah, hi. You, our listeners, have helped build Houston Public Media into a powerhouse of information. With the financial uncertainty we face right now, every dollar you can give will mean even more. Help us prevent the negative impacts of potential funding cuts and continue to serve you strong here in Greater Houston. Your support will help at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call to 888-909-0887.
And today, your gift supports this program and a greener Houston. When you do that, your support is so critical. It's what keeps Houston Matters on the air. This program keeps you informed, more connected, more inspired. So take a moment now to give back. And when you do, you can also help plant a tree or two. Just select trees as your thank you gift right now when you make that $10, $20, or $30 a month gift to houstonpublicmedia.org or at 888-909-0887.
Houston Matters doesn't tell you what to think. We bring you thoughtful perspectives and let you decide. Longer form discussions and conversations with people about what something means, what a development in the news means for Greater Houston, always with that focus of what does it mean for Houston. In a time of uncertainty and misinformation, that kind of connection, those conversations are more important than ever. Support the conversation by giving now. houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887.
Not everyone can give. That's okay. And we don't want one person or even just a few people to carry the weight. This station thrives when many people give what they can. You give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. And we'll check back in again with Michael later in the hour. Just ahead, what made a former Houstonian who survived the Boston Marathon bombing let go of her fight to save her badly injured leg and focus instead on helping others affected by trauma. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. On this date in 2013, a pair of explosions near the finish line of the Boston Marathon killed 3 people and injured more than 260 others. Among the injured were Rebecca Gregory and her 5-year-old son, who lived in Houston at the time. They both survived, but Gregory eventually lost her left leg after many, many surgeries to save it. Gregory recently returned to Houston from her home in Tampa, Florida, to be reunited with many of the doctors, surgeons, and physical therapists at Memorial Hermann who helped her in her recovery as she spoke to a crowd of first responders gathered for the hospital's annual Red Duke Trauma Symposium. Gregory tells Houston Matters producer Michael Haggerty about the decision she eventually made to stop trying to save her leg and about her work to help others affected by trauma. She starts, though, with the moments leading up to the bombing.
So I had come from Texas to Boston. It was my birthday weekend, my 26th birthday, my first time ever in the city. And I had come to watch a friend of ours who had qualified to run the race. And it's so funny looking back because I didn't know what Patriots Day was. I didn't realize it was a day that the entire city shuts down for, that the Boston Marathon is a very big deal, that it's very hard to qualify because I just wasn't in the marathon realm. So I didn't know anything about it. I I thought of it as a fun vacation, and I would be back to work on Monday. And I brought my 5-year-old son along with me. And so we caught a Red Sox game. We toured the city. We were all packed up and ready to go home as soon as the marathon concluded. And we ended up being less than 3 feet away from the first bomb that went off.
And if I understand right, your son was sitting in front of your legs, and that ended up being kind of fortuitous, right?
He was. He had gotten really bored. I remember vividly him tugging on my clothes, asking when we're going to leave, and just kind of thinking, as a mom does, said, "Buddy, why don't you sit down on my feet and play in the rocks like you're a scientist?" And I joke all the time that there were no rocks. I don't know why he sat down. I'm very thankful to this day because the backpack was behind us, and I was able to take everything in the back of the legs and torso and left hand, and that's what shielded and saved his life. And that son is now 17. We just went to college orientation. He's starting in August, and I can't believe it. I'm
6'3", you said?
6'3", yes.
What do you remember from those initial moments or those minutes after? I'm sure it was chaotic.
It's interesting when your body goes into shock because you either remember nothing or you remember everything. And so I've played this over in my head so many different times because unfortunately I remember everything from that day. I remember being pinned to the ground and in a pool of my own blood and my bones laying next to me on the sidewalk, and there were nails and ball bearings and BBs and everything these brothers packed into these pressure cooker bombs. You know, people's body parts were on the ground unattached to them, and it was a true war scene. But I also remember the people that rushed in to save us that didn't have to, that ran towards the danger, and not knowing if a third or fourth bomb was getting ready to go off, just knowing that they wanted to help get people like me off the street. And that is why I'm here and able to talk to you today.
I know it's a long story and an ongoing story, really, but your recuperation, I mean, what was that like? You said you were packed up and ready to leave Boston. You ended up spending more than a month there. Then you came to Houston, came home to recover. I mean, tell me just some of what your recovery was like.
You can never prepare for the moment that you wake up staring at 4 blank walls with tubes down your throat, with the FBI coming into your room saying that you have been a survivor of one of the largest terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. Life isn't ever normal after that. I say all the time that my normalcy was left on a Boston sidewalk that I had never walked on, a city I had never been to, but now is part of my home and part of my family, because that's the power of connection we were talking about today. It's just all of the people that came alongside me and completely embraced me as if I were their own family member, their own loved one.
I know you've had 76 surgeries over the years, and plenty of your recovery was at first trying to save your leg. Can you tell me about the decision you finally came to go ahead and have your leg amputated, and what changed your mind? What led to that?
I felt pretty soon after that my leg was not my life. I woke up, I was extremely just grateful to be alive. I was so happy to see my mom. I didn't know how she got there, but I was so happy to see her. And I just felt like no matter what, I was alive for a purpose. And my son came into my hospital room and he asked me if we were going to be okay. And as a mom, I think that we want to protect our children. And I said yes. And I don't know if I believed it at the time, but I was going to make that happen for him. I needed to. And so, the decision to amputate came as a form of sometimes we have to do things that are holding us back. We have to make decisions that are holding us back in order to get us to where we need to be. I realized that I was not cutting out a lifetime of surgeries. I knew that I was still going to probably have surgery, but I knew that the quality of my life would be better if I amputated my leg. And so I had a going away party for my left leg. I wrote, "It's not you, it's me," because it was like a bad boyfriend. I needed to get it out of my life. And it was just like a celebration. Like, I didn't want to cry over it. I didn't want my family to suffer anymore. I wanted to have fun and say, we're moving forward no matter what that looks like.
Part of what that looks like is a prosthetic leg on your left leg. You named
Felicia.
Felicia. So you had a going away for your leg, and then a a birth announcement for your
Yes.
for your prosthetic. Right?
Yes, she was a new addition to our family, so she needed to be treated as such. I wrapped her in a baby blanket. I made a birth announcement for her, and she has since gone on. So now we have Carmen here with us, and Carmen, I said, was being a pain today, so we're not giving her a whole lot of attention right now.
She's kind of bedazzled for the speaking event today.
Yes,
Nice.
my son had a hard time coming to terms with me amputating my leg. And the minute that it kind of clicked for him, he said it was going to be so cool because I was going to be his robot mom. And again, it's like the power of children and the power of the people around you. They give you the strength that you need to get through that. And so I said I was going to be the coolest robot mom there was, and I was going to make sure I had my pedicures, and I was going to bedazzle my leg and do anything and everything I could to make this a part of me and not something that I was missing.
I know there's obviously lots of really hard times along this journey, but you seem to be good at celebrating, trying to make some parts of it more joyful, like the going away party, naming your prosthetic, all those things. How important is it to sort of inject those or find those kinds of moments wherever you can?
It's so important for us as humans to laugh at the things that we can't change, to find joy in the hard parts. Because if we can't do that, if we can't truly see our blessings in the midst of our struggle, then our problems will overwhelm us. And I don't claim to know why things happen. I used to say that things happen for a reason. I don't know if I believe that fully anymore. I believe that we are equipped to be able to handle it, and sometimes there's blessings in the things, and maybe one day, hopefully, we will be able to look back and see more of why. I wish I didn't have to go through this. I wish that my son, most importantly, did not have to experience what he did. But I also look at the amazing things that I have now. And, my daughter is sitting right next to us as we talk, and I would never have her or this part of my life, my wonderful husband, and just all of our memories the last 12 years in this way had we not had this happen to us.
Years later, you had the opportunity to give a victim impact statement at the sentencing of the surviving bomber. You don't characterize it as a victim impact statement. Tell me what you said in the courtroom that day.
So I was asked to give a victim impact statement, and I didn't know what it was, so I Googled it. And it's a statement that's made right before the judge and the jury make their final verdict. And I just didn't want to give him any more satisfaction for what he had done. I watched him lean back in his chair in the courtroom, not acknowledge the jury by standing up on the first day of the trial. His attorney was rubbing him on the back. And I wanted to look at him. I wanted him to see that he did not destroy me. And so I got up and I had a blue and yellow on, which are the Boston Strong colors. And so very rebellious. I'm not like that. So that was interesting for me. But I got up and I looked at him, and our eyes locked, and I said, I was asked to give a victim impact statement today, but in order to do that, I would have to be someone's victim, and I'm not yours, and I'm not your brother's. And I went on to say that an act of hate that stretched a couple hundred feet, we've seen an act of love that stretches hundreds of thousands of miles. And whatever time we have left, they're not going to remember, no one's going to remember their names. What they're going to remember is what the survivors and the victims' families have gone on to accomplish. And I made a promise. I said I will do my part in changing the world for the better with the time that I have left. And I think about that promise. I think about being in front of him and saying that I will not let evil win every single day of my life.
Among the redemptive moments, you were able to run a little bit of the end of the Boston Marathon yourself on a prosthetic, and then later on also able to watch your husband run the marathon standing in that same place that the bombing that took your leg nearly took your life. I mean, what were those experiences like?
The 10-year anniversary, we're coming up on 12 years now, but I wanted to run. I wanted to run the full thing. I was only able to run the last portion of it in 2015. It's been my goal to run the full thing. And I had a surgery prior that put me out of that dream. And I was in a wheelchair on crutches. And my son, or my husband, said that he was going to run it. And he was not a runner. He's never been. And he hadn't trained. And he just decided one day, if you can't run it, I'm running it for you and Noah this year. And I watched that man train so hard every single day, And when he crossed the finish line, we were standing, Noah on one side of me. He had never been back to where we were that day, and Riley had never been to the marathon at all, my daughter. And my children were standing next to me. Noah's rubbing me on the back, and Riley is holding up a sign for her daddy. And we are standing in the same spot that Noah and I were in the day of the bombing on April 15th of 2013. And seeing my husband cross that finish line with my two children next to me, how does it get any better than that? How do you take your life back any more than that? You know, these chapters continue to be so beautiful, and it's the adversity in them that makes them that special.
Part of what you do with the rest of your life, as you said in the courtroom, is your foundation, Rebecca's Angels, correct? Can you
Yes.
just kind of describe what your organization does?
Yes. So in the aftermath, you know, I talk a lot about the physical, but it's nothing compared to the emotional. And what we saw and experienced that day, what my son had to go through, how I felt afterwards. You know, there was a point in time where I couldn't even look at a backpack without thinking a bomb was in it. And the loud sounds, you know, dogs barking got to me, different things, fireworks, campfires. And I started researching because my son didn't want to go back to school. He was very scared of the world. He told me the first day that I came home from the hospital, he said, "Don't worry, Mom, we're never leaving this house again." And his innocence was completely taken from him. And so it led me on this frantic search for help for my son. And what does trauma look like? You know, how it manifests in different decisions of our everyday life, childhood trauma specifically. And so I didn't know it at the time, but I was seeing how many other families were suffering through their own traumatic events that have happened, and they weren't afforded the same type of care that Noah and I were because ours was such a public event. Everyone wanted to help us. It was all over the news, all over the media, so we couldn't even get through the amount of emails and messages offering support. And we were very humbled by that, but it was sad to know that there's so many people that struggle with their own circumstances and sometimes, you know, can't do things for themselves and can't get that type of healing. So we created Rebecca's Angels Foundation in 2018, and we have now funded trauma therapy and mental health resources for over 700 families.
What would you say to other people who've gone through some sort of trauma, who are struggling to think about what their purpose could be and are just struggling how to get through the day-to-day life, let alone thinking about what the other side, if you want to call that, looks like?
I'd say that one chapter is not your whole story. And if you really put yourself into a mindset of every day getting up and deciding why you're fighting, who you're fighting for, what that looks like, what your perspective is, it's, you know, our blessings will always outweigh our problems. I think I've said that maybe millions of times in the last 12 years, but even the things that we don't understand sometimes become the milestones that we talk about to other people when we get through them. And I look back on my journey and I feel like I have been prepared for the moment that I'm in now my entire life. And every challenge and every obstacle has made me appreciate everything else around me more. And I wish that I didn't have to struggle the way that I do sometimes. I wish that my son never had to struggle, that my family didn't have to be a part of this. But we're always going to have challenges, but we always have the ability to overcome, and we have more courage and resilience than we ever understand.
Yeah, I imagine it's empowering and strengthening some days to think, I made it through this. I survived the terrorist bombing. How bad is the whatever thing I'm dealing with today, traffic or whatever problem I'm going through? Nothing can kill me.
I always think of things as trivial. I was talking to another trauma survivor recently, and she said her empathy meter was broken a little bit. And I said, well, you know, it's funny because I just think, like, if I'm worried about something or if I'm nervous, I'm like, okay, I faced down a terrorist bomber in court. I have got this.
Rebecca Gregory is a former Houstonian who survived the Boston Marathon bombing on this date in 2013. She spoke with our Michael Haggerty. Just ahead, we meet a pioneering pilot for the Navy's Blue Angels. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues. And Michael Haggerty's back with us now. You know, conversations like Michael's with Rebecca Gregory stick with you. In listening, we learn about her strength and the role Houston played in her efforts to overcome trauma, and now what message she has for others facing physical and emotional trauma. We're reminded how important it is to tell such stories. When you give to Houston Public Media, you make space for voices like hers. This kind of in-depth, meaningful storytelling and conversation does not happen without you. Give now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Yeah, it was great to go out in the community, go to that Red Duke Trauma Symposium and see her reunite with some of the people who helped her recover from her injuries and do physical therapy, and to hear her story. And Houston Public Media and Houston Matters is a forum for those kinds of conversations, those kinds of stories, and just meeting and getting to know the people of our community and celebrating life here in Greater Houston. And we can't let anything happen to this place, this organization that we love to bring you stories and that helps you hear these kinds of things and connect with your community. Help us with a gift right now to keep telling you these stories and bringing that to the whole community at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or by calling 888-909-0887.
What you hear on Houston Matters is created with intention. It's local, it's personal, and it's made possible by your support. From arts to civic life, your gift brings these conversations to you. And don't forget, give to Houston Public Media today. And as you support us, select trees as your thank you gift. And Trees for Houston will also plant trees in our community in honor of your donation to Houston Public Media. Make that $10 or $20 a month gift, more if you can afford it, right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
You know, if you've never given before, this moment, it's for you. Think about what you've gained from listening, the conversations you've had that started with, hey, the other day on NPR I heard blank, perspectives you hadn't considered, stories that moved you, that gave you ideas, things that made you think. Now is the time to make sure those kinds of things keep coming to you. That keeps happening every single day for you and the whole community on Houston Public Media. Make your contribution. Give whatever you're able to do right now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or by calling 888-909-0887.
In just a minute or two, we'll talk with a newly inducted member of the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame. It's just one of the many conversations you hear on this program that connects you to the people in your community. You recognize the value of the conversations, the news, the storytelling that you hear on Houston Matters each weekday. Support it now at HoustonPublicMedia.org or make that $10 a month gift right now at 888-909-0887.
When you support Houston Matters, you're saying yes to more than just good radio. You're saying yes to a stronger, more informed Houston, where everyone can access information, can share ideas, and engage in real dialogue and find out why something's happening and talking about all the aspects of it, as opposed to just learning that it happened. That's what public media does. Be a part of it. Give to support Houston Matters on this station at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or by calling 888-909-0887.
You support Houston Matters because it reflects all of Greater Houston and because it is one of the few places where culture and community and conversation come together with real depth. Your gift keeps this space open to everyone, and right now it can also help plant trees in our community through our partnership with Trees for Houston. Give to Houston Public Media right now. Ensure the future of Houston Matters and programs like it, and select trees as your thank you, and we'll also see trees are planted around town. Do it all now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. And just ahead, we meet a pioneering pilot for the Navy's Blue Angels. Stick around as Houston Matters continues. Last week, the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame at Houston's Lone Star Flight Museum welcomed new honorees for its 2025 class. Among them, Texas native and current Kemah resident Al Cisneros, a Navy veteran who flew combat missions during the Vietnam War and later became the first Hispanic pilot with the Navy's Blue Angels. After an 11-year military career, he transitioned into commercial flying for Continental and Southwest Airlines. He tells Houston Matters' Joshua Zinn what he took away from some of his most challenging experiences in flight.
When, as a naval aviator, you are challenged to land aboard an aircraft carrier at night in bad weather with an airplane that may be running out of gas, then you come within yourself and you gather every ounce of your existence to survive that, right? And I flew a lot of combat in Vietnam. The 3 years in the Blue Angels were also wrought with a certain amount of danger. But when you're presented with a situation where you're not sure if you're going to be able to succeed and you're not going to hurt yourself or others because you're tasked to the max. Going into situations, for instance, in combat, where you're a kid, right? Very little experience in aviation, especially in a fighter like the F-4 Phantom, where you're just hanging on, right? And in my case, I was flying on the wing of the commanding officer, the flight leader, who had been there. That was his third tour in Vietnam, right? And he's a legendary human being, absolutely legendary. And so when you are in an extremis condition, and you go through the entire spectrum of human emotion, right? Where for a moment you think that you're not going to make it. In the human condition, you and I live within a certain spectrum of human emotion. But then you cross over onto the other side. And the first time it happens to you, you go, wow, here I am, in suspended animation, going through the motions, a little bit of muscle memory here, and then you're at peace. The world goes silent. You just see images, and you do your thing, right? Because you have to, because you're a patriot and you're a warrior, and you don't want to fail. Goodness gracious, fear of failure. Oh my God, the fear of having to go back to mom and dad and say, Dad, I failed. I couldn't do the thing, right? And so those things come deep into your soul. And at the moment of crisis, it goes back to some of the great programs that have to do with men and women that are coming out of, for instance, drug recovery or addictions. Don't quit for one more day. Just don't stop for one more day.
What does it take to be a successful pilot? Let's say you have all of the physical stuff. You have good eyesight, you've got good coordination, but what about the mental stuff? What does it take to really be successful at that?
Yes. There's a poster that says aviation is very not enduring of those who do not pay attention. Right? and it has this picture of this little old biplane stuck into a tree. It's fallen into a tree, Discipline, right? Passion. Well, let me correct that. I do disagree when people say, oh, you need to be passionate in order. No. The first thing you need to be is skillful. Yes. And with that skill, you take your skill to a higher level, right? In the blues, they used to say, you're going to create or develop a higher level of concentration here. And the first time I heard it, I thought, wait a minute, I've been in combat day and night, all those missions. I was a test pilot for a year, and now I have to, what?
Now you have to concentrate?
No, I need to concentrate. Oh my goodness. Well, I found out what that was about, right? And what a great tool it is for life. Yeah. Driving down Interstate 10, heading to San Antonio, you better pay attention, and you better concentrate, and so I'm not saying that I go back to the blues every time I drive down the Gulf Freeway, but there are times where I go, okay, you think you're a good driver, you're going to have to be a better driver today. in the airline industry, in the cockpit, it's called situational awareness. Right? Everything. Great captains know everything about what's going on within 500 yards of their airplane. Right? Everything. And it's more than that. It's how do you care for your crew? How do you take care of your people? There's nothing like walking down the jetway, getting ready to take a flight, and the weather's bad, right? And walking down with my briefcase and, already knowing what the weather's going to be like. And I see the flight attendants, and they go, oh, great, it's Al, right? It's Al, because they know I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to sit with them, and I'm going to give them the brief and tell them that regardless of that that I'm the one that's going to take care of them.
You flew for quite a long time. I mean, you started in the 70s and you were flying commercial flights for over almost 30 years, I think. Yes, aviation changed in that time. We got new planes, new technologies. Yes. How do you keep up with all of that?
Well, you marvel at it first, right? and then you see the level of sophistication that occurs today with hands-off landings and automatic carrier land. I've observed it, but I've also done it, right? I flew Navy and airlines. I flew a total of 37 years. I accumulated almost 23,000 hours of flight time. What is important about that is not the number of hours as much as it is the number of takeoffs and landings, because that's the hard part, right? Literally, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? And that's where the skill occurs, and the desire to be the best you can be. I wanted to be the best pilot at Southwest Airlines, and I wasn't. And I'll say this very clearly. I was inducted into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame on Friday, but I promise you that there are many more people more highly qualified than I am. But in 37 years, and then in business, all of the lessons have come together, and I'm just blessed. That's it, that I'm just blessed to have survived the stuff that I did in combat and the blues and all that. God was just lifting me up when I didn't know what I was going to do. And make no mistake, I'm here for the grace of God.
Well, let's talk about the Aviation Hall of Fame. So like you said, you were part of the most recent class of inductees, has over 100 members now. I mean, what does it mean to be among all of these names, all of these people that we're surrounded by in this room?
For about a month after I was told that I was going to be inducted, I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, look up at the ceiling and go, am I dreaming this? Or is this real? Is this really happening to me? Yeah. We're sitting here in a room surrounded by other inductees where these people are my heroes, right? These people, I look at their faces in all the categories of inductees, and I go, oh my goodness, there's President Bush. Oh wow, there's President Eisenhower. Oh, there's an astronaut that I loved so much that I got to be friends with. And for me to be in this room where my picture is over my shoulder, I can't believe it. And I never will. I just never will. The beauty of it more than anything is my family. My siblings, my nephews and nieces, that when their own children, get to the point where we go, you used to have an Uncle Al? Yeah. Let's go see his picture. Right? And they come here to see this magnificent organization created by the state of Texas. When President Bush was a governor, he created this to honor Texans who have accomplished unique things, all in support of other people, and in the aviation world. And I just happened to be in it.
Mm-hmm. Through your entire career, did you have a favorite type of plane to fly?
The F-4 Phantom.
Yeah. Why?
My combat airplane. My girl. I used to call the Phantom my girl. It is because of that particular airplane that I grew beyond being a student, beyond getting my Navy wings, to the point where I had to grow into that airplane, respect it, know it, love it, and survive with it. Had I not been in that particular type of airplane, I probably would not have survived. And the reason for it is the actual machine that was so powerful. And it was, at the time, the best, the most remarkable fighter aircraft in the U.S. inventory. And I was blessed to fly it. When I went over to Vietnam, I only had like 480 hours of total flight time, and maybe 70 hours in the F-4 when I flew my first combat mission. I was still learning how to fly the airplane, right? And there I was, getting shot at. So I thought, well, I better learn how to fly this I better learn how to fly this beast pretty soon. But unmistakable effect that airplane used to have on me and still does.
Why are airplanes so cool? Why do people, especially kids, why do they love airplanes so much? What is it about that?
It's freedom. It's the ability to go up in the sky and marvel at what's up there. And it's magic. It is. When a young person solos an airplane, there is no greater feel of accomplishment regards to self-reliance. You went up there by yourself. Oh my God, my instructor's not sitting here, and you come down with an unbelievable emotion that says, I can do anything now. I can do anything. I'll tell you about a night that I was doing a test flight in the F-4. It had just come out of refurbishing and new paint job and the whole thing, right? And part of the test was to see how fast the airplane can go. It's called the VMAX run. And I did the VMAX run. I was up at, 35,000 feet, going almost twice the speed of sound. And so I thought, I need to get up as high as I can. So going as fast as I was, I just lifted the nose and put some more power on this thing. And I get up to about 55,000 feet. And I remember putting my head back and looking through the canopy, and I saw more stars in the sky than I've ever seen to date. And then I thought, I'm just so insignificant, and here I am in this playful activity, right? Having fun, thank you, Uncle Sam. But then that really recentered me, in terms of who I was and where I was, and all of that creates a sense of gratitude, right? And so imagine talking to a little boy that might come in here, and maybe I'll be talking to him, and if he asks me the same question that you will, I'll tell him stories, of having fun.
Al Cisneros is a former Navy pilot who was just inducted into the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame at the Lone Star Flight Museum here in Houston. He spoke with Houston Matters' Joshua Zinn. Your gift helps keep thoughtful conversations like that coming here on Houston Matters. In these final minutes of today's show, we encourage you to give a $10 or $20 or $30 a month gift, more if you can afford it, right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. And as we discuss once more, we welcome back Houston Matters producer Michael Haggerty.
Yeah, and there's a lot of noise out there in this world, but Houston Matters is one of the programs on this station that gives you something better: space to think, space to learn, time to discuss a topic with some more depth and try to understand it. Try to understand Houston a little bit more every single day. That's what we try to do on this show. And your donation helps keep that space open to everyone with no ads, no paywall. And today, your gift can also help plant trees in our community. Just select trees when you give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887.
Tomorrow on the program, you'll hear about the latest in local, state, and national politics. We do that every Wednesday. We'll also talk with area chef Michelle Wallace and with Houston author Huda Fahmy. These are conversations you will not find anywhere else. This program is all about Houston, its people, its ideas, its culture, and it's powered by you. Support it right now at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
We know you care about what's happening in Houston, from the arts to the economy to the policies shaping your life. There's such a breadth of great stories and topics that we cover here on this show. We dive into it all because you rely on Houston Matters to keep you connected. Now is the time to give. Support it at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887.
Whether it's a conversation about aviation history or food or literature, from local arts to a community celebration and beyond, Houston has a rich cultural fabric, and Houston Matters connects us by highlighting that. Right now, your gift helps make that possible and plants trees where they are needed most. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
When you donate, you're not just keeping Houston Public Media on the air, you're also building a better informed, more connected community. That's the power of public media, and it starts with you, the public. So please, give now, houstonpublicmedia.org/donate again, or 888-909-0887.
This is your chance to make sure local stories and local voices continue to have a platform. Houston Matters reflects the lives and perspectives of folks all across Greater Houston. Consider coming up later this week, we'll discuss a local effort to support women running for office regardless of party or ideology. We'll also tell you about a Houstonian's role in helping to restore the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It's just a couple of examples of stories that deepen our connection to our friends and neighbors here in Houston and how we connect to the larger world around us. We're able to do this because of your support. Help us build a stronger, more informed Houston at houstonpublicmedia.org or 888-909-0887, and thanks.